Welcome, everyone. My name is Tina Burnside, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Minnesota African American Heritage Museum and Gallery. I'm also the curator at the museum. And we'd like to welcome everyone to our last panel in our Black History Month series. And this one is on Black joy, strategies for improving mental and physical health. And we have a distinguished and expert panel that are gonna share some tips and techniques and talk about Black joy. And so first I will introduce our panel, and then we will get started with the discussion. We have Marlee James, who is the founder of Reviving Roots Therapy and Wellness. She is a mental health therapist and consultant with a focus around intergenerational trauma, social justice, and relational cultural work. Her practice focuses on the ideal that people in marginalized communities need to thrive instead of just survive. Therapy is her activism, and she believes that the more we can grow, the more we can help our communities break the systems of oppression that have harmed us. She creates a space for growth and healing for Black and Brown people. We also have Clarence Jones, who is a founding member of HUMAN, a collaboration of organizations that promotes healthy men, healthy families, and healthy communities, and seeks to address the healthcare crisis among men of color. He has 25 years of experience in implementing youth development community projects, facilitating cultural diversity training, and creating community wellness events. Clarence hosts a community health dialogues program on KMOJ, and he is also a board member of the museum. We have Phil McGraw, who is founder of Monarch Melanin Films and a filmmaker who elevates the voices of individuals through his lens. His community-centered vision brings healing and illuminates the path towards justice through the arts community. Phil is also a founder of V-Fest, a community event that promotes a healthy Black life through addressing health disparities such as heart disease, hypertension, infant mortality, and chronic race-based stress, and features food, fitness, and creative healing and holistic methods to help people live their best healthy lives. And then also we have Natalie Walters, who is a life coach and thinking into results facilitator, who focuses on personal and professional development and leadership programs. She is also an experienced philanthropic donor advisor and development officer. And Natalie is also a Norwegian interpreter and translator. So welcome to our panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, and then also I want to let the audience know that if you have any questions, we will be leaving time at the end for questions, and you can type your questions in either the Q&A or you can type it into the chat, and then we will get to those questions. So let's get started on this topic of Black joy. And I first want to kind of set the foundation for our discussion by asking each of you, what is your definition of Black joy? And I'll start with you, Marlee.
I guess for me, Black joy is pretty direct. It's just Black folks experiencing nice things. And I think for a lot of the ways that I practice, it's being aware that we can find joy in things that maybe our culture and society say are not always acceptable for Black folks to be. Black folks don't camp, or Black folks don't ski, or Black folks don't, whatever, insert here. And so, yeah, for me, Black joy means unapologetic Black joy, doing things that you like, that bring you happiness and peace without worry about what it looks like or judgment.
Okay, and what about you, Clarence?
I'm glad. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me to this seminar. And your questions really caused me to think a lot about what does Black joy means to me. And so I wanted to talk about it from an external point of view. It's the ability to recognize, appreciate, and support the accomplishment of other Black people who have overcome huge barriers and obstacles that were placed in their life. Black joy to me is a card, a letter, an email, a note, money to say to other Black people that I appreciate what they've done. And this is how I feel about you. To do it in a way that lets them know that it is something that is of value to me.
Okay. And what about you, Natalie?
Yeah, I think on an individual level, it is being you, being your definition of you. It's very similar to what Marlee was saying, and accepting the idea that our natural, innate state is one of pleasure and joy and peace. And if you look at children as how they come into the world, and toddlers before they are so heavily influenced by belief systems, it's mostly joy and peace and acceptance of yourself. So I really see Black joy actively choosing calm, happiness, peace, actively choosing, in spite of what your environment looks like, to embrace most of the time those feelings and accepting the idea that you're supposed to feel good and feel good your way, what your definition of you is, no one else's.
Okay. And Phil, what is your definition of Black joy, and how does that look to you in everyday life?
Beautiful question. Thank you for this opportunity as well to be a part of this esteemed panel. Black joy to me is free from the tyranny of institutional racism. I think of when I was a kid, I see my grandmother laughing, listening to church music, dancing, being filled with the spirit, knowing that everything's going to be okay. And when I look in the summertime, a kid's playing outside and it's on a hot summer day and people are outside just experiencing their neighbors and sharing love with one another. Black joy is the forgiveness that our bodies and our minds and our spirits have done for decades and generations while living in America, where we have to live in these under this system with two different masks of smiling through the hurt and pain. Black joy is celebrating yourself and loving yourself and working every day in a system that is really hard and a lot of people struggle. And I am very thankful that the work that we're doing at Living Naturally Abundant with health and wellness, people are experiencing Black joy internally by practicing healthy practices and doing away with not taking care of their mind and body, and how things now health is a focus. So Black joy is really taking care of yourself, dealing with your traumas, dealing with the day-to-day maintenance of eating healthy and just drinking, glasses of water, and remember to laugh and be grateful. Black joy is taking care of yourself and being the mirror and that you want to experience in reality, and you can manifest your beauty and your greatness.
Okay. And we're gonna that kind of leads into the next question, because we're going to get into, in talking about Black joy, we're going to talk about how, Black people have this historical and generational trauma, and how do we cut through that to get to Black joy. So that leads into the next question about, some people have described Black joy as an alternative form of resistance to racism and discrimination. And while others think that Black people should be able to just experience joy the same as anybody else. So I'm going to ask each of you, what are your thoughts about that, about Black joy being an alternative form of resistance to racism and discrimination, or do you see it as something different? And I'll start with you, Natalie.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. And what comes up for me is I see it first and foremost as an embracing of your true essence and limitless potential and divine birthright to be your best self, rather than a pushing against. I think when you're embracing that divine birthright to be who you are, you give for one, give other people to do the same within themselves. And then I think it also atrophies that that resistance almost naturally by being insistent and persistent and embracing your divine right to be at peace with yourself. So I guess I see it more as an embracing rather than a pushing against.
Okay, and Marlee, what about you? How do you see it? Do you see expressing Black joy as a form of resistance to racism?
Yeah, I do. I think I recently heard a quote says, "No measure of mental health to be well adjusted in a society that's sick." And so I feel like just the fact that we choose to shift how we view wellness and how we shift just kind of, yeah, shifting that perspective from, hustling every day, grinding to, just to survive, and moving into a space where wellness is the focus, where we want to take care of ourselves, where even if, where we have this understanding that when we care for ourselves, then we're caring for our community, that we're actually making it more possible for ourselves to thrive in spaces. I think that shift is revolutionary. And just that consciousness shift to say, my joy is important. My joy is radical, and it is resistance. And that's how I choose to be a part of a movement.
Okay. And Phil, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so Black joy it shouldn't obviously be used as a, in spite of the system, white supremacy. I just believe, like, I'm from Chicago, and, in Chicago, it's like certain ways is the survival mechanism. You have to look a certain way, and smiling and laughing inside and out may be seen as a sign of weakness. And that system, that miseducation of toxicity and just living, learning to survive and learning to adapt to your surroundings is very powerful. And growing up now and at this age of 36 years old, I look back and I just feel how unhealthy that is for people who may not have the opportunities of people to like speak unto them, speak over their lives, to open them up. So for me, Black joy is every day unapologetically loving yourself and looking at other people, your neighbors that look like you, and your environment, to start reaching out and start to break down these barriers of miseducation of the system that was put into place, and things that we're absorbing in social media, in movies. Everything is communicating to us. It's all energy, and just realizing that it's our purpose to smile. Like, our bodies is free when we smile and when we laugh and when we don't take things too serious, and when we can build one another. That's like the real power into having Black joy, is if we can build together. And that's the thing that I'm realizing, like, if you're able to collaborate and partner with other people in spite of and not allowing pressures of society and the things of crabs in a barrel to take place, and seeing like the bigger picture to change generations that's before us, and and behind us. It's pretty big to do away with things that is ailing our community around the I don't want to say miseducation, but around things that is hard to smile. It's hard. It's really hard to like be happy uh, in this day and age, because of the prices for food, inflation, COVID-19, people in their house stuck, depressed, isolation. Obviously, George Floyd murder case, Amir, another person was just killed the other day. Our kids are dying, so people are looking for different outlets to release their energy that's blocked in them. So I think we just need to have a radical revolution in our bodies and our minds to see that the only way through is through healing yourself and smiling and doing away with what the system has put into place to keep us bound and angry at each other and looking at each other.
Okay, and to follow up on that, because you brought up a lot of points, and that is though, both you and Marlee and Natalie are all kind of saying the same things. While it should be natural to be able to experience joy as just being human beings, but because of the historical trauma and then also the everyday current trauma that Black people face, that's a very hard thing to break through. And you mentioned some things where, you know, in 2020 we had the pandemic, but we also had the murder of George Floyd, and then, you know, there are still, you know, Black people being murdered by the police. So how can Black people find happiness despite the historical trauma and oppression and the current things that are going on in society? And I'll start with you, Clarence, on that.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that, and I want to say this too, on the last question, I think that Black joy is a healthy alternative to a healthy form of resistance. I think that Black people have to understand or to really appreciate the real value that we have within ourselves. We have to really appreciate the values that we have within each other. We have to enjoy each other. We have to understand that there are things like internalized oppression that we have to resist. That the things that are going against us, there are still ways in which we could depend upon each other. We can lean upon each other. We can trust each other. We can find people that we can work with. It seems unfortunate that sometimes it feels like we're the only person out there fighting, but it's not true. There are other people out there who are of the same mindset that we should be working with. And so for me, it is about reaching out to other people and experiencing or to develop relationships with other people that you can walk together and can learn how to appreciate each other and appreciate the life that you have. It is tough. I mean, there are things that are going on, but it is important for us to understand that that everything is not controlled by other folk. Some of the things that we need, we already have access to. So that's my thought.
Okay, and I see you nodding your head, Marlee. Did you want to add to that about how can Black people find happiness despite all the obstacles that we face, despite the historical trauma and oppression and discrimination that we face on a daily basis?
Yeah, when I work with clients in therapy, my focus is on the very first thing that we talk about is mindful awareness. And so mindful awareness is just this experience of being in the present moment, noticing what's happening in that present moment in time, and recognizing that each passing moment carries another experience with it. So one moment I might be happy, one moment, I might be angry. The next moment I, might go back to being happy. And so there's this experience of knowing that, even when we have all of these big things that are going on around us, individually, there are always moments where you can find a little bit of joy or a little bit of gratitude in your experience. Every morning, I try to just name 10 things that I am thankful for. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for the food in my fridge. I'm thankful to be in a warm house. I'm thankful for the connections that I have. I'm thankful to be, in this space with these wonderful people having this conversation in this very moment. And I think that when we can start to experience things moment by moment, instead of looking at it as this big overarching like doom and gloom, it just makes life a lot easier, because you can pinpoint those moments that are good And they can also go along with those experiences that are not so good and that make us feel sad or angry or frustrated or whatever it is.
Okay. And unfortunately, both like in this country and then also within the Black community, mental health is still kind of like a taboo subject. People don't really want to talk about it. And so how do we, and hopefully we can, you know, maybe have kind of make people feel a little bit more comfortable about talking about mental health with this conversation. But how do individuals and also we as a community overcome the stigma of mental health and the stereotypes of, you know, the strong Black woman or the strong Black man, or the misconception that, you know, Black people don't do therapy? And I'll start with you, Phil. How do we overcome that stigma and see mental health as kind of like the same thing as physical health? If there's something physically wrong with you, you know, people more than likely will go to the doctor. But if there's something, if they're having some mental health issues, they're not so quick to seek help for that.
Oh yeah, we have to start not giving a care. We have to, what I mean by that, giving a care what people think about you. I think that's a very powerful thing. When the thoughts of the acceptance of your peers. Personally, I went through the whole gambit of mental health, of not really checking in with yourself, to checking in with yourself. As you alluded to in the bio, I'm an artist, and I always say art saved my life. And what I mean by that is art opened my eyes to my things that I suppressed, things that have happened to me that I never could use the words to describe what I experienced or what my body is experiencing, because it continues to come up. And I appreciate it because I started to pull away the mask that I was hiding, and I wasn't an authentic person. So personally, just doing away with it, like how are you showing up in the spaces? And when you ask someone, hey, what's up? How you doing? We have to create spaces. Hey, if a person's not feeling well, if a person's not well, and and they should feel free to explain it. Maybe not unloading like negativity or complaining, but using it in a way to show that you care in a community that is dealing with a lot, whether you're out in a community, not in a community, where you're at your desk and you working in corporate America. Checking in with yourself and learning how to verbalize those words with other people. Be it where on Facebook, I seen a post the other day where owner of a business, I won't say her name, but owner of a business, and she had a lengthy post about how it's hard for her to wake up every day and et cetera, et cetera. And these things have happened. And I personally messaged her and I put it on her post today. I appreciate you revealing that and sharing it, because you give courage to other people who are hiding and they just want to post pictures of a smiling face on Facebook, or they just want to like other people's posts because they want to live through posts of people doing, you know, going out or looking nice or whatever. And that's how we do away with it. We just make it a normalcy and we don't care what people think. You want to post a picture of doing yoga, you want to post a picture of if you're looking sad or how you look without makeup. We just have to be more in tune with ourselves and loving ourselves authentically. Like we're human, and if we're the first human original man, we can manifest things through our thoughts, through our ability to work hard. We are amazing people. And unfortunately, our minds is one of the easiest things to trick, because it's having an experience through our senses. And through our senses really determines what our reality is based off of. So we really have to start not worrying about what other people think. And we're not crazy in its terms that you are crazy or you're this or that. We just have to scale that back, because people are not living a full life and a healthy life, and they're hiding. They're going to church and they're praising, and this is not me condemning the church, but they're going to praising and praying, and then they're leaving that space and they're going to work, or they bring around their kids and they're still angry, they're still hurting. So we gotta do away with that, and just be authentically you and break that down and not care, and take care of yourself and reach out to people if you need to talk, because people love, and people nowadays seeing people dying of so many different illnesses or diabetes or heart attack, stroke, et cetera, because you're hiding, and there's no reason for us to hide if you're beautiful. You got so many people caring about you. So sorry, I went a little long, but
Oh, no, that's perfectly fine. And Natalie, what do you think about that, about breaking down those stereotypes and that stigma, and people getting the help that they need, and working to make it normal to seek help if needed?
Yeah, and I think what Philip said is like that vulnerability is really what that's about, and it's hard because if there's no one around you showing you how to do that, no one's talking about it, you can kind of feel like you're crazy, or if you're experiencing things in the workplace or with friends, you can feel like you're crazy. But I think first of all, saying you're not crazy, what you feel is real. And I think when I think about the strong Black woman trope, I think we have to respect why we've had to be the strong Black man, strong Black woman in the first place, and respecting and having reverence for our ancestors and for ourselves about what that looked like to in the face of relentless terror. We've had to do that. That's survival. So I think always figuring out why is a big piece for me. Like, why was that happening? And when you've processed that, and well, I mean, you might be processing that for a long time, but that is part of giving yourself permission to thrive and to experience who you are and what you love and what you want to do and who you want to be. So I think those two things go together for me, is that why have I had to put up a front? Why have I felt like, and when you've gone around feeling like you're being gaslit, you're just crazy, you're making stuff up. After all that terror that compounded hundreds and hundreds of years of terror, there's a reason for it, and to give yourself some grace for that and understanding of why you've had this kind of bracing posture, and so after that would be that prioritizing feeling good. That first and foremost, I want to feel good inside, and that will shift how your experience is in the world.
Okay. And Marlee, as a therapist, how do you break down that stigma around mental health? And when people come to you, I'm sure they're first kind of hesitant or reluctant. And so how do you kind of, as a therapist, get that message out there to people that, it's okay to seek therapy. It's okay to seek someone to talk to about what they're going through?
I guess I have two thoughts on that matter. The first is that, you hear this kind of stereotype all the time that Black folks don't like therapy, we don't do therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lot of referrals. There's a lot of people coming to therapy, and they're not shy about it.
Okay.
They're actually coming and saying, I need this, I want this, this is important. And so I think just shifting that awareness to be like, yeah, Black folks do go to therapy. We like it. I think the thing that helps to break down the stigma too is to have more Black therapists. I think most of the times when folks come to me, they're thankful that they were able to be seen by me, because there's only about 2% of Black folks as therapists. And so there's a sense of safety that comes around, working with a person who looks like them. And so I think just one way that I have found that it's important to try to break that stigma is just existing as a person in this field, as a Black person in this field, and just kind of offering the services, and then also advocating for other Black folks to get into this field as well, because we need more Black folks in mental health. And there's a lot of reasons why we don't do it. There's a lot of reasons why there's a mistrust in the mental health field. just as a whole. And if we're not in it, we can't change it.
Okay, that's so true. And Clarence, I want to follow up on what Marlee had just ended on about mistrust in the field. So how do you deal with the mistrust of medical professionals due to past incidents where Black people have been brutalized or mistreated? You know, we've all heard about the Tuskegee experiments, and there have been others. And so you, in particularly with the work that you do with men of color, how do you break down that mistrust?
Well, first of all, thank you for that question. I think, first of all, I have to acknowledge that it is true. Some of that is very, very true, that there have been a lot of experiments. There have been a lot of things that are done to us. But one of the things that causes me to really be engaged with this particular thing, if, first of all, acknowledging the fact that it has happened, is that I also have to acknowledge the fact that we are, as men, I'll say men, or as a community, we're sick, and we need to figure out how then do we work with these professionals in order to get the kind of access and aids that we need. It's very, very important for me in my work that I have honest dialogue. And so when I talk to people about the things that have happened to us, I have to acknowledge them, but I also have to talk about the importance of them working to find ways in which we get the kind of our medical needs met. And so the reality is, yes. But the other part too is that I also have to try to address some of these issues. And I think, as Marlee has said, is that I'm also trying to figure out ways in which we have other Black professionals who are part of these research, part of these studies, to also be a part of our community conversation to try to address some of these fears. Some of these fears, there have been laws put into place. There have been structures that are put into place. We have to figure out how then, in spite of these things, do we continue to work with our community in order to keep them healthy? So that's what I do. Honest conversation, honest dialogue. Yes, these things have happened, but there are laws and there are things in place right now. We also have our own people who are doing these, who are working to make sure that these things do not happen to us again.
Okay. And Marlee, you had mentioned about the importance of having Black healthcare professionals. And can you, and I think you had thrown out a figure, was it 2% of mental health therapists are Black? Is that in Minnesota, or where's that figure come from?
So there's no actually real number for how many, that's my guess. There's no real number for how many Black professionals. There are 5% of the mental health field is people of color in general.
Okay. Wow.
And so, and that's just all of the brown people.
Yeah, so, that's real low.
Yeah. And so yeah, that's my assumption is that, we're even lower.
Okay. And can you tell us about your practice, Reviving Roots, and how you came about to found that, and why you started that?
Yeah.
And
so
why you went into that field?
Yeah. So how far do I go back? So I've been working in the mental health field for about 10 years. 10 years this year. I've worked in case management. I've worked in crisis. I started in crisis calls like suicide hotline, stuff like that. I've worked in schools and quickly learned that I do not work well with young children. And then kind of moved into working with like emerging adults and adults. And most of my clients, all while I was getting licensed, were people of color who specifically wanted to work with me because I was a person of color that they felt like they could understand and could understand them. And just after all the years of hearing and witnessing through case management, but hearing all the horror stories about therapists just disrespecting their clients, like questioning their experiences of racism, saying that that didn't happen or it wasn't real or it wasn't true. I decided to start my own practice once I got fully licensed. And I always knew that was kind of what I wanted to do just because, yeah, there's a lot of white organizations that talk about sharing that talk about, their care for Black folks, for people of color, but don't actually use any of the skills and actually act on that care that they say they have on the websites. And so I started Reviving Roots. I started seeing clients in 2020, March 2020. So like right when COVID started. I had a beautiful I've had a beautiful space. My office was all set up and never saw anybody in that office. And so, sitting at home doing telehealth all day. I lived about 6 blocks away from where George Floyd was murdered. And when that happened, I got an influx of referrals. So many folks just seeking services, wanting again specifically to work with a Black therapist, and just kind of realizing, I have 100 referrals. I can only see realistically like 30 people. It's just not realistic. I don't have the capacity. And so I decided to expand like the services that I offer. And so in spring, I'm planning to shift from purely telehealth, individual therapy into offering like holistic wellness services specifically for the Black community, for us, by us. So there'll be yoga classes, and fitness classes, mindful fitness, monthly therapy, monthly massage, and like cultural wellness events and workshops. And we're calling them the memberships sanctuary, because we're kind of offering sanctuary to the Black community.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what Reviving Roots does. And I decided to do it just because in my family, I know there's so many things in the background that we talk about, or we don't talk about. You're aware that something bad happened to grandma, but you don't know what it was, and you don't know how it's passed down, and how it's living within me right now. And so that silence, it affected me a great deal, and to a point where I didn't really understand, why am I in pain? And so the more that I'm getting to understand and more I'm learning about counseling and, how uncovering some of those things helps you to live a better life, I can also help to model that for other folks, just in that openness and that just being in the profession.
And I just want to follow up on something that you said, where you had talked about that silence, and things may have happened to things have happened to everyone in the past, and then you may push it down and not deal with it, but then it always comes back if you don't deal with it. Mm-hmm. So and most people are in tune with like physical symptoms that they may have, but they're not in tune with like those symptoms that they may be having that indicate that maybe they should see a mental health professional. And so, so what are some things that people should like pay attention to that may want to tell them that they should go and seek some mental health?
That's a good question. What I like to tell people is that everyone could probably use some mental health services in their lives, because everyone kind of has something that they want to change. I think when it becomes more serious, the things that you kind of notice when it becomes more serious, where you should really be looking to get some help from somebody, is when your symptoms or your experience make it hard for you to do the things that you want to do or need to do. If it's hard to go to work because you're irritated all the time, you're tired all the time, you have a hard time eating, so you don't have a lot of energy. Maybe there's a point where you feel like you don't have any feelings. You're not really attached to your experience at all, your emotional or your physical experience. And it's making it hard for you to go to work. It's making it hard for you to have good relationships with people, because people need people. It's making it hard for you to go to school. It's making it hard for you to, pay your rent on time, whatever it is. When things start to get in the way of you living your best life or what's close to it, it's time to start looking for a therapist.
Okay, well, that's some good information and giving people some ideas about, things that they should, be aware of, be in tune with their not just physical health, but also their mental health. And I want to
I just want to add one more thing. A
Sure.
lot of times your physical health is being impacted by your mental health. So like our issues with our joints, our issues with like autoimmune issues, food stuff, that's all also being impacted. Diabetes, Alzheimer's, that's all
high blood pressure.
high blood pressure. Yep. It's all connected to your mental health. So if you notice the physical health stuff, maybe you should also go to see a mental health therapist.
Okay. And Phil, I want to ask you, because Marlee has talked about, people seeking professional help with a mental health therapist or a counselor. And I want to ask you about some things about, because you had mentioned earlier about holistic treatment, and also Marlee is doing holistic care also. But I wanted to talk to you about that.
What exactly?
Oh, about like holistic methods of dealing with, having a healthy lifestyle or dealing with mental or physical care.
Oh, nice. Yes. Marlee, I would love to network with you. I want to say that now. So yes, holistic care is a beautiful thing that's been around for generations. My organization, Living Actually Abundant, we host a wellness art conference called the Black Om, and it uses it works with healers. And when we say healers, we mean people who practice in like holistic spirituality, provide their services. So we have a breathing meditation specialist working with breath work. I want to say it saved my life as organizing. You're juggling and you're managing, and some days you're not breathing properly, so your head can hurt, you can be irritable. And working with her I've learned how to ground myself a lot easier and faster, feeling connected to myself and my breath. We have, yoga instructor, writing. So it's a lot of different ways to manage stress. So when I think of holistic and wellness, I think of managing stress. And as I alluded before, as an artist, I had a camera and I would take pictures and then go on my computer and edit the pictures. And I began to look at the subject closer, the eyes, the other features, and the energy around them. And I started to think about myself, the energy around me. And I started to notice that when I'm working and if I'm editing a film, my breathing would slow down. I would basically get in a zone and no one could stop me in a basketball terminology. And I really began to notice that how doing my artwork is helping me like not heal, but it's bringing things out of me that I need to work on and address with a wellness practitioner or a therapist, what have you. But I was going through a journey to really learn, like, man, this is Like I love what I do, and this is healing. So I began to branch off into doing yoga, stretching. Stretching is so vital to your mind and to your body and to your muscles. That's why our our great ancient civilizations or ancestors, they put them on the hieroglyphics, showing that they invented yoga, that what it's called now. But they were doing moves and to relieve the stress. Like our bodies is a machine, and just like a machine, like a car, sometimes it needs oil. It needs to be moved. Sometimes it aches and pains, and each organ is connected to an emotion. And if you want to think of the chakra system, and there's so many things that our bodies absorb, radiation, toxins. You made me upset when I was in 8th grade that you still have not released. And this is nothing to play like joke around, but our bodies hold on to so much stuff. And then you think about the food that we're eating is, food living in your colon for 5 years, 3 years, because we're not detoxing, we're not fasting. So when I think of wellness, I just think of learning self-care management, stress management, sorry. And also self-care management of, slowing your body down, breathing, and really checking in with your body to reflect, a healthy life, a holistic life. Because I know me, I have, sometimes I have anxiety, and I'm working through my anxiety, and I'm working through my thoughts because I've had so many different past and present lives, and in this current present, I just seen how society was. I was trying to play catch up all the time in society, or trying to be this person, and not checking in with myself, not checking in and take care of myself to slow down, and to think, is this healthy for you? Is this good for you? Who are you chasing after? Like, who are you trying to impress? Why are you upset? I started to ask myself questions about what I was feeling, what I was thinking. So I was using a journal, and this is just my journey, but it's so many testimonials of people doing incredible discoveries within themselves. And a great philosopher just said, know thyself. Know thyself. That's the greatest relationship that you can have. It's your first love, is to know yourself, and it's to love yourself. And you will love yourself, or yourself will love you even more, however you want to put it. And the people around with you, will love you even more when you start taking care of yourself. And you just have to have the habit of wanting to do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. And I want to pick up on a couple of things that you said and talk to Natalie about stress management, and then also knowing yourself. And what are some good ways to deal with stress management? And Natalie, I know that you're a life coach. And can you first tell us about what is a life coach? Because a lot of times people hear that term life coach, but we really don't know what a life coach does. And so can you talk about what is a life coach and what services you provide as a life coach, and how that can benefit a person, and also benefit in those areas of getting to know themselves, and in positive growth and development and stress management?
Yeah. A life coach, the way I see it, as someone who sees maybe more talent and ability than you see in yourself, and just helps bring it out of you. And I see it as someone who inspires you to make headway in the face of roadblocks and time zappers. They are someone who helps, if you're willing and able, get clear on what your vision is, what your goals are. We are here to create and have goals, not to get the thing, but to grow. And if you're not doing that, you're not really living your fullest life. So I really see coaching as being like kind of like a success insurance policy, like someone who checks in with you holds that vision and really protects it with you. And oftentimes people who are coming to life, seeking life coach services, I really see it also as in tandem with therapy, that they are seeking someone to help them do those really big, scary goals, the goals that you maybe fantasize about, but you can't imagine actually doing or can't visualize it manifesting. Those big goals that have persisted throughout your life, that no matter what you do, you can't really get rid of it. And it kind of feels almost like a plague. Like, what is this thing that I can't let go of? And I don't know how I can access it. I see the life coaches providing new perspectives, brainstorming, helping you access those higher creative faculties like perception and intuition, and honing those higher faculties, because we have this magnificent, powerful mind that is ruling our experience. We most of the time operate from our subconscious, and so you could have these values and want these things, but your life isn't reflecting that. And I with my practice, it's getting clear on like what's your self-image, how do you view yourself, and is that at cross purposes of what you actually want. So I think it's also about looking for new ways to solve problems, because you can't solve, what was the quote? You can't solve problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And I see that too as being a really vital part of my practice and with coaching. I think we often give away our vision and goals. We want to share it with people, and people are very quick to punch holes in it and say, well, how's that going to work out? I don't think that's not very smart. That's not wise. So I am a firm believer in holding tight and being secretive, because I think ideas gain power when you hold them close to you. It's the same reason we vent to release the power of those negative emotions. So as a life coach, being someone who really has reverence for your vision and your heart's desires, and helping you stay focused on it and not give up on it. And the goals can look different. For some people, it's like tripling my income. For some people, it's just, I want to learn how to not work every single day. I feel like I have to take care of everyone else. And so honing in on really what are your heart's desires, and maybe what's getting in the way of that. I'm the flame stoker, as I like to say, like keeping that fire going in you and being your cheerleader and saying, you are here for more. You are here to be your best, brightest self. And that's what I've loved about coaching.
I want to follow up on something that you said, because that does happen a lot when you talked about people have these dreams or these goals, and then when they verbalize them to other people and they share them with other people, a lot of times people are not encouraging, but they're very discouraging, and they'll say, oh, you can't do that, or oh, that's just ridiculous. And so what advice do you give to people to, counter that negative feedback that they're getting, to help them to keep going?
I think it's about caring more about how you feel than what the person is saying. So getting really familiar with the sensations in your body when you're talking to someone. Like, you know what? I notice every time I'm honest with this person about my experience, I feel kind of icky afterwards. I don't feel good about myself. So being your own advocate and caring, who are the 5 people you surround yourself with the most? What are their attitudes like? And being very protective of your vision and goal, and know that what they think about you has nothing to do with you and is none of your business. And that's okay. They're not living your life. So just getting comfortable with that. And that's hard. I have not completely mastered that, but I think that's essential. People who are thriving and who are really at peace with their life, that's the common denominator. They just don't put much thought and emotion into other people's opinions.
Okay. And Clarence, I want to start with you on this question. We've seen statistics that Black people are disproportionately affected by heart disease, hypertension, diabetes. Also, during this COVID pandemic, Black people have been disproportionately affected by that too. And so what are some tips to improve physical health, including food, exercise, lifestyle changes?
That is one of the things that I think is so important for us to really be talking about, is that COVID has really created a environment where many of the issues like this have been covered up. So one of the things I just want to share this a little bit about our work is that our work has really been designed to provide access for people who might be struggling with diabetes, cardiovascular health. I mean, we have programs that actually work with communities to help them to address this through apps, through focus groups, through those kinds of things. It's important for people to understand how these diseases are impacting them, but also as a healthcare professional, my job is to find ways to get them to get access to medical places where they can get the treatment. So I'm definitely one of those kind of people that I'm encouraging people, first of all, to exercise, to eat healthy. I'm encouraging people to get their blood pressure checked. But the key piece for me is to actually get people into a place where they can get access to those things. So whether that's food or whether that's medical attention, it's very, very important for us to be able to encourage folks. How do you do it? It's been very difficult with this whole idea about people being isolated. But what we have tried to do is through radio programs, through other kinds of media accesses to give people the resources that they need in order to get these things. There are places where there is food, healthy food being distributed. We want people to know where that's at. There are places where medical services are being provided. We want people to know that. And so it's just one of those kinds of things that COVID has presented some really interesting challenges for us. And so as a healthcare professional, it's very important for me to try to figure out where are those places where we can intersect with people and give them the information that they need.
Okay. And you're talking about your work with Human, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then Phil, can you tell us about the work that you're doing with the Black Ohm and with VFest?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, Living Naturally Abundant is a community-focused health and wellness organization in the Twin Cities to just address the health disparities by creating an environment to bring a health awareness to people that need it most. We're a unique organization. We're nimble. We're growing. We started in 2019, right before COVID in 2020. We host a health and wellness event called VFest. It stands for Vitality Festival. We had the past 2 years. We've been located in St. Paul. This year we're growing into Minneapolis, so that's super exciting. So we're gonna have 2 festivals this year. And VFest is a health and wellness organization. We use art, entertainment. We have a youth section. We have speakers, different partners from hospitals, clinics, or mental health clinics as well. We have a yoga presentation. We have our own little healing section, so you can get a free body massage or lymphatic facial cleansing, or if you just want to practice in some Reiki or just lay down on some grass or just a cern or a pavement over a yoga mat. We have food sampling, so people can try a plant-based food or vegetarian food or cold pressed juices for the first time, or just whatever. It's on a hot day and they just want something. They want to try something unique and different. We want to create this opportunity and this platform for people to experience like what does healthy living means and what it's look like. So we have pillars of physical health. We have 2 personal trainers or fitness people in the community that perform. We also focus on health and nutrition. And then again, we focus on mental health, talking about the disparities and some of the misconceptions with health. So we make it impactful. we consider it we want to be the essence festivals of health and wellness, healthy
Okay.
living, and just branching off and creating our own lane. And what does health look like? And it's possible. And it's again, it's destroying the myths and the miseducation and all the things that ails the community that preventing people from like having the knowledge and wisdom and a culture in themselves to go out and if you got to drive extra 5 miles to get some organic food or it's amazing people. It's amazing people that's growing gardens. So we have some amazing collaborations and we have some amazing intentions that we're going to carry out and we're going to be successful. And then in the fall, we have a mental health conference. I alluded to that before.
Okay.
It's called the Black Own, where we have artists and psychotherapists and healers. And we just use the saying, and that art is healing. So we're not saying that this is a full out mental health conference. It's really a unique way of allowing people to experience artistry and with academic education from people who's experienced and who can talk about from an academic standpoint mental health. But we know, our generation and well, this current generation and this society is different, and they want something unique, and we bring it. We bring it different, and we make it inviting. We make it friendly. It's creative, and it's going to be amazing. So this year we'll have it in North Minneapolis as well.
Okay.
So our organization is new, and we appreciate what we're doing, and we're getting more funding and more participation, and we're growing every year. We had about 700 people in St. Paul last year.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to tip the scale to over 1,000, and Minneapolis is going to be even packed. We're going to have so much fun. So check us out.
Okay, that sounds exciting. And what I'm going to ask everybody to do, like after this, is if you all send me information about your organizations and your events, and then I will post it on the museum's Facebook page, where people can find out about these resources and find out information about all of your practices. And I wanted to follow up on something that I think Clarence had said about isolation and COVID, because that was something that a lot of people experienced when we had the shutdowns. And then even now, people still aren't comfortable, going out and doing a lot of the things that they used to do or having the large gatherings. And so I'm going to ask Marlee and then Natalie, can you talk a little bit about how people can deal with the isolation that they experienced during COVID, and then how do they get back in the mindset of, when they're ready to get back out and start kind of doing some of the things that they used to do before COVID? And I'll start with you, Marlee.
Yeah, I think, isolation has been a problem even before COVID. I think they made it a public health issue, maybe in like 2017, because
Okay.
loneliness
Okay.
is a public health issue now. And so, I think our culture has kind of been moving into this space where we are kind of all going into our little silos of, being in spaces where only our own experiences are validated. And then COVID just made it so that we just stay in the house, and we're not as connected as we used to be. We're not getting those informal experiences of connection where you just, walk past somebody and smile, or, say hi to a stranger, or give them a compliment or something like that. And so a part of shifting that, I think, is to just be aware of those, I guess, two things. And I think they have to happen kind of in a balanced way. The first thing is to kind of validate your experience and to say, like, I'm lonely. A lot of people are lonely right now. And it's a hard place to be in because it generally is a very uncomfortable experience. You feel like, even if you're, loneliness is feeling like you're alone, even when you're in a group of people. And so having this sense where Um, you know, yes, I feel lonely. And then this other part is, and I'm not alone. And so how can we remind ourselves on a regular basis that we're not alone? Is it a random text that, to a friend or a family member, just saying, hi, I was thinking about you? Or is it, connecting with somebody to get some food, or, have a virtual coffee, or, whatever it is. I think there's a real sense that we need to be really intentional about reminding ourselves that we're not alone. And that comes, and when we're able to do that, we can kind of rewire our brain for, yeah, just to have that memory and to have that understanding, so that when the feeling comes, feelings, you hear all the time, feelings are not facts. So when we feel lonely, we're reminded, I'm not alone. There are people around me that care about me. There are people I can reach out to, even if it's just one person.
Okay. And Natalie, what are your thoughts about how people can make that shift?
I think we all got really, a lot of people got very clear um, on what their values are in this isolated experience we're all having, and you start to get really honest with yourself. So maybe some of the friends you had before, or some of the events you would go to before, they're not there anymore. So I think it's naming, like, what do I value? What kind of events and experiences are meaningful to me? What inspires me? One thing I've tried to use, I have mixed feelings about social media, but I have always used like LinkedIn, for an example, as a place to reach out to someone and say, I notice you're doing this and I think it's really cool, and would you be open to a virtual coffee? Or going to there are events still happening, so being safe when you feel it's right, and attending maybe an event you wouldn't normally attend, pushing through that discomfort and awkwardness, and just making one promise to yourself, I'm going to talk to one person and see how that goes. And I think what we find most of the time when we meet someone new, it's very energizing, because we are meant to connect, we are meant to have community and be in communion with others. So I think it's kind of a two-part thing, getting clear on what it is you find meaningful and valuable, and going into those areas and looking for those experiences, whether virtually or maybe some things in person, and trying to connect with like minds. And it's very very invigorating, and I think crucial to make you feel awake. Otherwise, it can be very, you can kind of feel like you're disintegrating when you isolate too much. You kind of feel, just start telling yourself all these stories that maybe might not be true. So stay connected and reach out to people you might not otherwise.
Okay. And we had mentioned stress. And let's talk about, because everybody has stress, and particularly Black people are stressed not just by individual things, but also by environmental things, the racism and the discrimination that we experience on a daily basis. And so we all know that stress can have deadly consequences if left unchecked. And so what are your suggestions about how people can effectively deal with stress or manage their stress? And I'll start with you, Clarence.
It's interesting that you asked that question, because I was going to say that during the COVID period, we took a survey in North Minneapolis. We did about over 500 people, where we tried to find out how they were surviving and operating during COVID-19. And what we found out was, as what has already been stated, that people, for the most part, we were doing better than the rest of the country in some situations, but we had a real problem when it comes to relationships and also with sleep. And if you want to be stressed out, don't get any sleep. But the other part about that was that as a result of that, there was also an increase in overdoses of drugs. We had a substance abuse problem. And so part of what I'm going to say now is that sleep impacts will increase your, the lack of sleep will increase your stress. Not having healthy relationships. I thought about the fact that, during COVID, we had families of 7 to 8 in 1-bedroom apartments, and some of those were kids. And I'm sure that there was a lot of stress that was there, and so part of what is important to do is, first of all, to be able to identify it, or to be able to talk about it, but also to understand where there are resources where you might be able to get help. And I think that stress comes in a variety of different ways. It's the stress for where am I going to get money from? Job. All these kinds of things. So there's a variety of things that are going on that we as a community need to be working collectively in order to try to help our other community members to address these issues.
Okay. And Phil, what are some of the suggestions that you have about how people can effectively deal with or manage stress?
Yes, good question. Remind me to stay consistent. Consistency is key. To be gentle with yourself. I remember the first time someone said that to me, be gentle with yourself, Philip. And I took it the wrong way. Like, I don't need to be gentle. I am gentle with myself. And
what does that mean, to be gentle with yourself?
Now, it depends on your personality. So if I'm a person who takes things serious, and I'm not as conservative as I used to be, but I used to be very conservative, and I used to take things very seriously because I wanted to be I perceived that I had to show up a certain way because my image had to fit the way I showed up, but I was doing the opposite, and I wasn't breathing. And so a person kind of saw my energy and saw how I was flowing, because they kind of knew my different shades, I would say, or how I showed up. So they were just saying, be gentle with yourself, don't be hard on yourself, don't be upset at yourself, let things kind of, accept it, acknowledge it, and kind of move on. And now, like, looking to that now, to answer your question, my regimen of what I do personally, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm just someone who experienced it or worked with enough people to get my own, put different tools in my social tool belt, self-care tool belt, excuse me. So I wake up at a certain time. I try to be consistent. As possible. My body loves a schedule. I think our bodies is designed to want to follow order. So I wake up at a certain time, and I always drink a glass of water, and I always acknowledge how great my day is going to be. So I have an affirmation. Today's going to be a great day. You can write them out. You can come up with millions of affirmations. I just say today is going to be a great day, and I internalize that. And then I just go into either meditation. You can light candles, you can stretch, but or you can journal. But this is how I kind of get my day started with my self-care management, because I know I'm gonna be busy and I got kids and I have businesses, and I'm more productive when I slow down and to give myself, allocate that. If it's 10 minutes, if it's 5 minutes for you to, wake up, drink some water, take a deep breath, take a deep, beautiful breath. Like, if you ever stressed out, like right now, I got tense in me because I'm speaking in front of so many people, 30 people, whatever. So I'm moving faster, and I notice in my mind, but I'm trying to tell my mind to slow down, but my mind can't, because I haven't breathed. I haven't taken a deep breath. So I'm going to take a deep breath, and everyone can practice it if you want to practice it, but just take a deep breath. You see that silence? That's like life. That's the balance of, don't take these words out of context, but that's the balance of life and death. Like when we exhaling, we're not breathing anymore. We're exhaling, but we put something happening inside. But it's so important to breathe. And when you're holding your breath, so many things happen. So many things happen where you're not breathing fully. So I can go on tangents, but self-care management for me is just having a schedule, breathing, checking in with myself, and saying an affirmation. I started that affirmation when I was going through, I was working in corporate America. I was dealing with one-on-one discrimination. I was getting divorced, and I was going through some legal matters. And I put all of it out because I'm not ashamed of it. I'm human, and I made it through. Mm-hmm. But I was dealing with an unbearable amount of stress, you know? And I changed my whole faith system. And every day, every single day, I closed my eyes and I saw myself having a great day. And I said, today is going to be a great day. And I felt it in my spirit. And I look back on those days of practicing that, and I will never turn it away. No one can ever talk that out of me, the affirmational and following through with execution. Like you can't say I'm great, I'm healthy, and then you're not practicing being healthy. So say the affirmation, follow through what's gonna make you affirm that. I'm beautiful. You look in the mirror. Is it uncomfortable? Is it uncomfortable for you to look in the mirror? Some people can't do that, believe it or not. And work your way through feeling beautiful and affirm that. Do the things that's gonna make you feel beautiful. Do the things that's gonna make you feel healthy. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And I definitely agree with you on the breathing. One of the things that, I do for stress management is yoga. And they always talk about, it's not just about the stretching, but it's also about the breathing and how the breathing will, help center you and help calm you. And so I definitely agree about the importance of, breathing and yoga is one of the things that I do for stress management. And so, Natalie, what are some suggestions you have for stress management?
Yeah, I think what you said and what Philip said, I'm very much aligned with that. I love yoga. That's like, I call it like an organ massage. It's just like, oh, it's amazing. And those simple, deceptively simple habits, how you start your day, how you decide what kind of day you're going to have, that's your experience that you're going to have. And so and getting outside and trying to even if it's just for 5 minutes without my phone, or at least without anything in my ears, and just getting fresh air. We get really disconnected from nature, and I think that's essential. And recalibrating and movement, finding whatever makes you feel good. For some people it's yoga, for some people it's running. I think getting back into your body, we can get so stuck in like that forebrain and spin out of control with our thoughts. So start of the day, like Marlee says, having like gratitude is essential. Journaling when you're getting overwhelmed with emotions and thoughts. I find I've always done journaling since I was a little girl, writing down, just kind of puking up all the emotions, and it's such a release. And those really simple things like breathing. Have you drank 8 glasses of water or enough water today? And I do meditate, try to in the beginning and the evening. Even just 2 minutes is plenty. And it really, after a while, it shapes your life.
And I just want to follow up on the last thing that you had said about meditation, because a lot of people talk about meditation, but how do you actually clear your mind of everything to be able to sit still and clear your mind to meditate? That's challenging.
Yeah. I think it's being okay with that. It in the beginning, especially, it won't be clear. And I visualize like kind of those thoughts of just clouds, like, okay, there's another one. And that you just making those 2 minutes or those 5 minutes to just sit and try is enough. That is enough. And it also can be a good gauge of like where you're at emotionally in the day. Like if your mind was quieter, with practice, it might be a good day to do a little more because you have the space and the capacity. If you're feeling really noisy and anxious, it might be a good day to not do as much, not make as many decisions if possible. But it's repetition. It's being kind with yourself and like, oh, today was a noisy head day and tomorrow will be better. And but I think it's just practice, just doing it, showing up every day.
Okay. And Marlee, we've been talking about stress management, and then also we've mentioned self-care, and we hear a lot of talk about, about self-care these days. What exactly is self-care, and why is that important?
So yeah, I think a lot of times when people talk about self-care, they're actually talking about self-soothing, like the things that we do to make ourselves feel good, like, we take a bath, or we take a nap, or we, I don't know, connect with somebody that we want to, or watch a movie or something. And so I think it's important to know the difference between self-care and self-soothing, because self-care and self-care is kind of that overarching thing that we say we care for ourselves. So self-care means, taking care of your mental health when you notice it's necessary. It means making a budget. It's some of the things that you don't really want to do, but you probably should because it's good for you. So, exercising when you maybe don't want to, eating well when you could have that slice of cake, making a budget so that you don't go broke next week. So self-care is it's the 360, that complete sense of care for yourself. And it also includes the self-soothing as well, because those things are really important. And there are times where we just need to come down because we're up here, we're on 100, and we need to come back down to, like 20, so that we can do some of those self-care things that we need to do. Yeah.
And Clarence, what are your suggestions or thoughts about self-care?
I think it's about being sensitive to the needs of your body, whether that's the physical, whether that's spiritual, whether that's emotional. I mean, it's really being aware of who you are. And I think so many times we are so busy that we don't listen to our bodies. So self-care would be taking the time to meditate, taking the time to eat the right kinds of food, taking the time to be in a space where you can be around healthy people, and to be able to ask the questions that you need to ask. I mean, so it is a broad topic, but it is about taking a look at yourself holistically and coming up with a way that works for you.
Okay. And then I'm going to ask the last question to each of you, and then we're going to open it up to some questions. And so the last question is, what are some, and we've talked about some of these, but what are some tips that people can do to get started on a path to a healthier lifestyle? Because it's easy to, talk about all these things, but then how do you actually put them into practice and take that first step? And I'll start with you, Natalie.
I think it starts with trying to get neutral and start observing yourself, noticing patterns, tendencies, these results, things that keep showing up in your daily life. So I think that's because first you want to isolate what do you want to change. I think it's about validating your experience, understanding where you came from. And that's where a lot of times therapy comes in, and getting clear on what do you want? What are your values? What do you care about? Because I don't get asked that question a lot. What do you care about? What are your values? I think those are really important questions to ask yourself, and to know how wonderful it is to have goals, and goals that maybe even scare you a little bit. I think that can really wake you up, keep you engaged in life, keep you purposeful, and most importantly, keep you growing. We are here to grow. We are here to mess up and to get it wrong and then to try again and to keep going. And I just think if you're not doing that, you kind of feel listless and a little lost. So I find that the lifestyle is just being so knowing yourself, having understanding, and with understanding comes better decisions, and having having goals and ideals and things that you want to grow towards. That's for me is the crux of life in a lot of ways.
Okay. And Marlee, what are some tips that people can do to get started on a path to a healthier lifestyle?
I guess, for me, I think a lot of the ways that we're impacted is through the people that we're around, the culture that we operate in, the community that we're, sitting in, living in. And I think the more that we can contribute to a culture that is open, and that is actually like sharing your true experiences honestly and authentically, that it just kind of makes life easier for other folks to do. So, if I'm being, in my experience, if I'm being open and honest about my experience, if I'm struggling, if I'm really happy, whatever it is, it kind of creates this opening for other people to share their experiences as well. And I think just having that be the first step is really important, because, Black folks we live in a collectivist culture. We are community driven. We ride for each other. And so the more that we can build a community around healing and around, not only caring for ourselves and being honest with ourselves, but also, being honest with others, we can kind of create this sense of accountability within our culture, and again within ourselves.
Okay. And Phil, what are some tips that people can do to get started on this path to living a healthier life?
Yeah, I agree with everyone, Natalie and Marlee, what they said. Observing, like observation, and your culture, the company that you keep is extremely important. But if just from the standpoint of like starting out, um, doing the basics. Like yesterday, I do health consultation, so I just encourage people to drink more water and observe yourself for the next 48 hours. And if you can drink 8 to 10 glasses of water, just write down everything that you're experiencing that you've never really noticed that's different. And is your mental health, is your mental capacity different? Are you more? Do you have more clarity and focus? Because a lot of people don't understand. Like water has a lot to do with how you function mentally.
And
The
that's what I
brain
was going
uses
to
a
ask
lot of.
you.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I was just going to ask you to explain like the importance of water.
Oh yeah, drinking water. Like when you wake up, water is the brain uses a lot of water when you're sleeping because you're dreaming and your body is healing itself. It's repairing. So most times people wake up, they got to use the bathroom. Well, your organs and or your brain had to operate, and you had a dream, and your organs was hopefully breaking food down or cells doing what cells do. And use the bathroom. So we use a lot of water when we wake up, but people are drinking coffee. So I just say start with water, keep a journal. That's my biggest thing, like having people keep journals, and just write down, or if you want to text yourself, I text myself, like to keep track or keep notes. And then you can go into different things of, okay, what are you eating? For me, I found out that I was lactose intolerant by eating too many bowls of cereal. Then I would get dehydrated, and these are just symptoms that I've experienced. But it's many more symptoms where are you irritable? Are you constipated? Um, you know, is your lips dry? You know, it's a lot of ways to see if you're lacking nutrients, or, and I'm just coming from like a nutrient health phase,
Mhm.
not more so mental health or anything like that. But just really observation and taking notes. And what do you feel like? How do you feel like? How do you feel about those changes that you're experiencing, and just visualizing the person that you're becoming, and know that you are going to become that person that you're becoming. You're always on a journey of becoming and being, and not lose track of that, and not lose, not just want the happy feeling, the dopamine of like success, and it feels good. But actually, it's gonna be days where you don't want to get up and make yourself, drink a glass of water, or make yourself a healthy smoothie, or whatever you're doing now that you're on a healthy journey. You have to be consistent and determined that this is the life you want to live, because it's always going to be challenges. That's how the universe tests us. That's how the universe helps us grow and mature. So drink water, observe yourself, keep a journal. And I guess the most radical thing you can do is, for me, stop eating meat. But I'm just saying, stop eating meat and dairy.
Okay. Okay. And then Clarence, what are some tips that you have about how people can get started on a path to a healthier life? Unmute yourself.
I think we all agree about that whole issue about knowing yourself, being honest with yourself about what your needs are. I also put down, find something that you like, a hobby or some kind of interest. I mean, to build some balance in your life. And then the last thing I said is find someone that you can partner with, who you can share your experiences with, because I think that part of a healthy lifestyle is being able to have an honest dialogue and a conversation with someone who will speak positively into your life. And so that's that whole issue around the Black joy, is having somebody that will acknowledge the fact that, you're valuable, and they will tell you through letters or notes or whatever kind of way, or verbally, that, hey, you bring value to me. So those are the kinds of things I think that will help us in terms of a lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle.
Okay. Well, that was really great and excellent discussion. And we have some questions, and so I'm going to turn it over to the questions. I'll first check the Q&A. Okay, these questions about the recording, and yes, tonight, after the discussion, the recording will be available. It will be posted on the museum's YouTube channel and also on our Facebook page. And so probably within the next couple of days. And then if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or in the Q&A. And there were some, I think, in the Q&A, so I can kind of scroll through here and see. See.
Someone wanted to know any recommendations for Black therapists accepting new clients.
Marlee, are you accepting new clients, or do you know anyone who is?
I am accepting, so right now, since we're rolling out sanctuary membership, we want to see how that kind of goes first. And so we're accepting new clients for the sanctuary memberships. So again, that's the, monthly therapy and massage and yoga, fitness classes and events. And you can find that on my website. There are a few, I can't say if they're accepting clients, but I can also say a few Black-owned counseling centers that you might reach out to, in addition to Reviving Roots, Kente Circle in South Minneapolis, Levan, Levan Counseling, I think is in Brooklyn Center. There is a Root to Crown Healing in St. Paul, and I think they only do telehealth. Her name's Cassandra Sawyer. Who else? Canopy Health. I can't remember exactly where they are, but I know that they offer telehealth. They're Black owned, and they have a good amount of clinicians there. And then I would also reach out to Minnesota Care Partners. Minnesota Care Partners is owned by a woman of color, and she specifically hires folks who are people of color and who have a social justice lens background when they, when they serve people. I'm sure there's more, but I can't think of them right now, but hopefully that list is helpful.
Okay.
And if I think of any more, I can put them in the chat as well.
Okay, and then also, if you have any other resources, if anyone has any resources, you can send them to me and I'll include them with that list that we will post on the museum's Facebook page. And then there's a question about, I think this is about, to Philip, about VFest and the Black Om. When is that event coming in St. Paul? Are you going to have an event in St. Paul?
Yes, I am. VFest will be on Saturday, July 23rd. The Black will be in October. I want to say October the 11th. And VFest in Minneapolis is going to be on Saturday, August 13th.
Okay. Okay, and then let me just, okay, there's a couple questions that have come in. Someone has asked, Philip mentioned not eating meat. What are some easy plant-based meals and what are your go-to foods?
Yeah, easy plant-based meals. Good question. When I stopped eating meat, I went to making my own like quinoa bowls. And if you don't want quinoa, you can saute onions and peppers. And if you want to, saute them, season them right, and you can also add spinach, and saute spinach and cilantro. You can get one of those veggie wraps. There's different types of seasoning or sauces that they have now. You can make soups. You can make plant-based spaghetti with chickpea noodles. You can make chili. You can use cauliflower. Obviously, cut the cauliflower up, season them, put them in the oven. Put them oven, for about 30 minutes. You can add those to a salad. It gives a good texture to salad. You can juice. You can make smoothie. It's a lot, and that's something that I'm literally working on. A guide to being or living on a plant-based diet, but it's not out. I'm working on it. But that's a really good question. And things that my day-to-day diet is waking up, making drinking a green smoothie, or drinking a juice. I started a juice bar to provide nutritional options to people that live in St. Paul and Minneapolis. Then I eat oatmeal, or I go to Chipotle and get a veggie burrito, or I'll go home and make it myself. But I fast once a month for 3 days, and I lose a lot of weight. So to get that weight back, I'm normally counting my calories. So I'm on a different diet. But if you ever wanted to reach out to me, I could definitely, work with you, give you for a free consultation. It's not hard at all. Well, I shouldn't say it's not hard at all because I've been living this way for 4 years. But I have a lot of tips, or I have a community of people who can recommend, so many things to make, this lifestyle so amazing. There's so many things now what they're doing with food, or creative ways for you to combine things that taste similar to meat. But it's a lot of variations to dieting if you don't want to eat meat, or if you want to cut out meat, or if you want to eliminate cheese, dairy, the main thing.
Okay.
Yes, it's a lot. Yep, stir fries is the best way to go. Yes.
Okay.
Sweet potatoes too. Don't forget sweet potatoes.
And I'm just checking the chat one last time, and then I'll check the Q&A.
Yes. Vegan by nature, yes.
Okay, and so I don't think we have any more questions, and we are right about at our ending time. And so I want to thank our excellent panel, Marlee, Philip, Clarence, and Natalie. And also I want to thank everyone for joining us for this important conversation about Black joy. And I just want to thank everyone for participating. Oh, wait, there's another question. One last question before we end. What about dealing with chronic illness? I would like to hear some thoughts on that. Clarence or Marlee or Natalie or Philip, does anyone want to respond to that question about dealing with chronic illness?
Okay.
I guess I just need more clarification.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think a little bit more clarification on that. I think that we do have a lot of chronic illnesses in our community, and it's something that we need to address. So if you could give us a little bit more, that would help us to perhaps to address it.
I can say that there is one particular like theoretical orientation for therapists that that's called ACT therapy. It's acceptance and commitment therapy, I think. And so that's one, if you're looking for mental health support around chronic illness, maybe looking for clinicians that follow that orientation would be good. ACT.
They did respond. Not sure if we have any expertise on this, but fibromyalgia.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, but I know that fibromyalgia is really connected with anxiety. And so it's beneficial to see both a mental health therapist and like a physical health doctor when you're
a nutritionist.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to say, but it's pain all like over the body. So just if they talk to like a dietitian, probably not a nutritionist, but like a dietitian, it's newer studies that with a certain diet that can also help them relieve the pain in their body. It deals with a lot of inflammation, but I don't want to say more than that because I'm not licensed.
Okay.
But they can look it up.
Okay.
I would just add that I've had some persisting like skin conditions, and I found that when I just went to kind of a traditional doctor, I would get Band-Aid approaches, and I found working together with a naturopath, I felt much more well-rounded and I got a lot of help. So I, again, don't know much about fibromyalgia, but I think naturopaths have a lot of knowledge and tend to go a lot deeper than kind of traditional Western medicine. So combining those two, I think has been helpful for me.
And Natalie, what is a naturopath?
So naturopath, it's kind of it's mixing like functional medicine and Eastern and Western medicine. So for example, if you're going in for a skin condition, maybe if you go to a dermatologist, they would just kind of look at the lesion as itself on its own, whereas a naturopath would do a stool test. It would really look at full blood panel of what's going on in your body, would ask about what is your mental health like. It's much more in depth. You can do like hour sessions with them. So it's an alternative form of medicine. And look it up. They've been very helpful. There's many in the Twin Cities.
Okay.
And there's one, a person I just met recently, actually. She's the She's the only Black naturopathic doctor in Minnesota. And so I'd reach out to her. Her name's Dr. Q. Dr. I'm gonna mess up her name. I want to say Cormina. I can type it in here. But I would definitely reach out to her because she's got some knowledge.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we are at time now. And so once again, I'd like to thank Natalie, Phil, Clarence, and Marlee, and also thank everyone who joined us tonight. And everyone have a good evening and find some Black joy. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.